Hello and welcome to the latest Business Leader Insight. And do we have a treat for you today? We are speaking to none other than Jordan Belfort. Jordan was depicted by Leonardo DiCaprio in the hit movie The Wolf of Wall Street. He's a very, very famous businessman, entrepreneur and investor. And we'll be talking to him today about NFTs, leadership, investing, his life and much, much more. So we really are in for a cracker today. And thank you again to our presenting partner, Nightstone Capital. Thank you again for joining us today, Jordan. Really looking forward to this interview. I'm going to crack straight in to the questions. Now, in the movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, you were depicted as being somebody and a leader that people fiercely rallied around. What would be your advice for leaders looking to galvanize their business and take it to the next level?
I think that culture is a really important thing. And I think one of the things that companies often overlook is they don't value human capital as much as they should. And I think that now with the way the labor market is so tight and people don't seem to want to work anymore. But that's not really true. They don't want to have a life that work sucks and life is good. Like I can't wait till Friday. Thank God it's Friday mentality. I think people want to feel like they have a life every day, and they're not just making a living, they're building a life as they work. For me, building a culture that is fun, it's exciting, that makes people feel inspired. If you got one of the great movies I love is Jerry Maguire. Remember Jerry Maguire?
Yeah, Tom Cruise.
There's a great line in there that Renee Zellweger says when Jerry Maguire, Tom Cruise leaves his sports management company, and he's talking about like, oh, I'm gonna get you dental or health insurance, and she's like, all I want is to be inspired. Like, why did she leave? She's like, I just want to be inspired. I wasn't inspired. So I think it's for a leader nowadays, I think it's so important to be inspiring, to inspire your people. It's not just about making a paycheck and punching a clock. It's about a vision that you have for the future and people buying into that vision. And I think great leaders are visionaries. And I don't mean like Steve Jobs like that. I mean like that. I'm telling you, just a visionary, whatever it is that you're doing, that everybody is working towards a common vision and mission, and people feel valued. And it's not just about paychecks. Often I would say, listen, if you're a great leader and you're a visionary, people will work for you and take less money, because they feel inspired. They want to be inspired, and they feel like they're building something and creating something. And also, I think it's great to also create situations where people make them feel like owners, give people stock options or small profit sharing plans. I've always done that. Whenever any company, I always try to share the wealth with employees and make everybody. That's why Stratton was amazing. And even the secretaries made tons of money. Everyone felt like they were part of a team. And I think it's so important now, especially in a tight labor market.
You mentioned Stratton, and if you had a business, well, I know you have business now, but and there's all this work from home stuff. Would you want people in the office, Jordan?
I would. I mean, of course I would. But it's a broad question. Some businesses, by their nature, they can function well and people are not in the office, and in others, it's crucial that they're in the office. I would like to think that, in most cases, that at least have them in the office 3 days a week or some hybrid, at least have people together. I found it very difficult to be as efficient where everybody is working from home and it's decentralized. There's a lack of sharing that happens, and ideas that just the cross-pollination of ideas and energy. I think for a sales force, it's very difficult to build a successful sales force unless they're really high-level experienced people and self-starters. For the most part, that's the death sentence for a sales force, is to be working from home. So, when it comes to a coder, I guess if it's someone that's just putting headphones on and coding and sitting there looking at their own screen, I guess those sort of jobs are probably more geared towards working from home. So I guess you can't answer that question that generally. Depends on the job, but I still think that there's a massive advantage to people being together, and the camaraderie, the energy, the team spirit, and the exchange of ideas and knowledge that happens when everyone's together.
And it's quite a difficult question to ask, but I always like when you said just pick up the phone and start dialing to a salesperson. Like, if there'll be some people who are in sales roles, and you know what it's like. It can get quite, when you're not selling it, it can be quite difficult. What would be your motivational thing to say to someone who's in sales and they need that little boost. And just what you feel on that, really.
Number one, so I think one of the keys for motivating salespeople is you can't just motivate a salesperson by, saying, come on, pick up the phone and start dialing. It's also about giving them the skills that they can be effective when they pick up the phone and start dialing. So it's Stratton and all the companies I've ever, ran or I do a lot of consulting. When I talk about motivation, it's always a combination of motivation and skills training, giving people the skills they need to succeed massively at any job. So without that, motivation becomes nonsense. And you can't say you're the best, you're kick ass, come on. And they're not. They actually are not that good at what they do. You have to make someone better at what they do. So actually teach them what they have to do. Give them the skills they don't have them and reinforce those skills. And I also believe that that's one thing. So it's not just motivation. It's motivation combined with skills training. Secondly, is that motivation every once in a while doesn't do that much. No, motivation is like a warm bath. It feels really good, and you should probably take one every day, but it doesn't really do much for you. So motivation has got to be daily. It wears off. So it's like each morning I would give a meeting, each afternoon. Now, some industries it's not possible, but if you're running a really, a dynamic sales force, you need to be giving motivational sessions almost daily to these people, sometimes even more than once daily, because their heads go up and down, like their emotions arise and fall based on the last sale. So that's a crucial thing, is it's not just motivation. And then also each individual is motivated slightly differently. So you want to make sure you understand that, what represents pain to someone, or if you're trying to motivate yourself, what are the things that cause you pain and what things cause you pleasure, and then use those things to motivate yourself on a daily basis.
Thanks, Jordan. Some really good advice there. And I just want to now touch on failure a little bit. Do you think you need to fail to be successful in business and life?
Probably 95%, 98% of entrepreneurs will say, failure is an integral part of success, right? We as long as you don't live in your failures or become your failures, you learn from your failures, you grow from your failures, you become stronger from your failures, you get resiliency, right? You build muscle from that. Yeah, it'd be great if you never failed ever, just everything you did worked, but it's just simply not possible. Even someone that would appear like a Zuckerberg, he just started Facebook and it worked. He's got his failures all the time with micro failures within his overall success. So I think failure is an integral part of success, and you need to, the lessons are in your failures. You need to learn from your failures, but don't become them. Like you start thinking, I'm a failure. Smart people, successful people fail, and they learn from that. They grow from it. They get better, and they soar to success.
In fact, and I just want to also, I've seen you on TikTok, social media. How different do you think your life would have been if you would have had social media earlier?
That's a good question. I think I always say a lot of what happened and was able to happen was we didn't have this. Everyone running around with a camera. It's like, it changes the dynamic massively. So it's, you got to really be a lot more careful now with the things that you do and the things that you say. Everything is getting memorialized and taped. So I think that, like you just saw this guy, what happened with, what's his name, from the Barstool Sports guy, Portnoy, he's getting attacked, from multiple directions right now, and he's defending himself online. And whether he's making the right move or wrong move doing that, I think he needs to defend himself for sure. But you have to be very careful. So I would have been a lot more careful, I'm sure.
And do you worry, Jordan? Does it bother you that you might get abuse online or things like that, or is it water off a duck's back now?
You mean haters?
Yeah. Well, do they bother you, or you just kind of brush?
I don't like the haters. I mean, I think that the haters to me don't bother me at all. Like I used to have a lot more of them, but like what happens, I have so many more fans than haters. So my fans attack the haters, so they're they don't really, they get overwhelmed by people that are fans, but still haters drive engagement. When they say negative things, then people start a conversation, and then it goes on and on. So like for me, it doesn't bother me at all. I kind of like it. It doesn't happen that much. Like I said to my wife, you can't look at the comments. Like, you go crazy because people are vicious online. They're just absolutely vicious. And when I feel like, for me, it doesn't bother me personally, but for a lot of young people, I feel really bad. Like they say terrible things about, like really bad things about people. So I think those people are cowards. They never would do it if it's face to face. They hide behind a screen name, and if you're going to go out there and be relevant and try to be relevant, you have to expect that you're going to have your detractors. You have to learn to not let that stuff bother you. Remember that most people who are hating are just very angry themselves and bitter and negative. So, they're probably not living a very good life.
The pandemic has seen a rise of people starting their businesses, becoming entrepreneurs. Do you think the kind of that sort of 9-to-5 job, Monday to Friday, is that going to disappear, and you're going to see more people becoming entrepreneurs and making money for themselves?
I think so. I do. I had this talk with someone, this conversation with someone yesterday in depth. I think there's been this major shift, and I've been saying this for years, like that a 9-to-5 job for most people is not a path to making a lot of money and achieving financial security. It really is a dead end for most people. Now, sometimes it's different, for people, professionals that are really have a path to make a lot of money. But for most people, a 9-to-5 is a very, very tough way to secure your financial future. You're making someone else rich. Now, the world does need 9-to-5 workers. And I would never demean one and say, oh, how could you do that? So I don't think that's not my opinion on it. But if you're okay not living a financially empowered life and not making a lot of money, then there's nothing wrong. And a lot of people are okay with it, and that's okay. I mean, it's what your belief systems are and what your vision is for your own future, what your standards are. So like, if you're okay with it, there's nothing wrong with it at all. But if you're trying to get rich, if you want to make a lot of money, or you want to live an empowered life financially, most 9-to-5 jobs are not going to get you to that place you want to be.
Thanks again, Jordan. I just want to move now on to the world of NFTs. You recently joined the lucrative business of NFTs with a $440,000 purchase of a CryptoPunk. Can you just tell us about this?
Well, I think it's going up. I think it's a good investment. So I think that the NFT space is new. It's very exciting, and I think that CryptoPunks is very interesting because it was the first real project that it got serious traction. And while the price, it might seem absurd. Like, I have this thing, I'll show it to someone, I showed it to my wife. I'm like, hey, what do you think this is worth? She's like, $12. I'm like, okay, well, you can kiss your career as an NFT appraiser goodbye, but yet, if you show it to someone that really knows about NFTs, that understands the community, oh my God, like, it's the greatest thing ever. So like, there's this really weird disconnect, right? And I think that's what kind of shocks people. But like, if you go back in history and you look at modern art and things, like, people say like it's like a monkey throwing paint on a canvas. Oh, it's the best thing ever, $5 million. Or like so you really, who's to say what is amazing art and what's not? In this case, there's a couple of things driving it. Number one is the communities that are built around these collections. So you have very passionate people about cryptocurrency, about decentralized finance, and also about this idea of the up and coming metaverse, which I'm sure you know what it is, and the readers, I'm sure we'll discuss that later. So people it's like on the bleeding edge of what is the future. So I think this represents that as well. Then there's the idea of just simple of scarcity, that there's just this X amount of these things. And then third, when it comes to CryptoPunks, is the fact that they're owned by very, very wealthy people for the most part, meaning that they're not in the hands of flippers. People that own a CryptoPunk are really long-term holders, is sticky. So there's not that many of them on the market. They're not being traded, so to speak. They are being collected. It's this thing that where you can kind of count on the fact that even in a down market, even if NFTs will, go down, they will at some point, because all things go up and down over time. Every market is a cycle, right? I think CryptoPunks will probably be the Bitcoin of NFTs. That's how I look at it. So to me, it seemed like a pretty solid investment. I thought it was pretty cool. And I was advised by someone younger than me, which means by definition, they knows a lot more about NFTs than me.
You kind of touched on it there. So just briefly, in terms of like the uninitiated, so the people who don't know about NFTs, first time we've heard about them, why should they invest?
I wouldn't tell anybody to, I'm going to tell anyone to invest, because that's a personal decision, right? So, but I would urge people to to look at NFTs and educate themselves about cryptocurrency, about non-fungible tokens in general. I think there's a lot of use cases for these, and also about the metaverse, which is really what's coming next in terms of the web, what people call Web 3, and this sort of this idea that there's going to be a paradigm shift in how we get information, how creators get paid for generating information. Let me give you a metaphor for this. Okay, so an NFT is essentially it's a digital signature that is authentic. It's an authentication. So it could be a 1 of 1, a 1 of 10, 1 of 1,000, 1 of 10,000, right? But that is indeed what it's supposed to be. Versus, how do you know that a painting is not copied? How do you know it's authentic? Well, they pay art appraisers and authenticators a tremendous amount of money. They have things like provenance, like what is the history of the piece. Then every once in a while, an unknown piece emerges, and often it's fraud. Sometimes it turned out the artist created something with no one knowing. When no one has a real way of knowing what is real and what's not. They analyze the brushstroke. They analyze the pigment, the paints, right? With NFTs, it's code. It's literally it's a code, like crypto. So they actually have these signatures that are very they're almost impossible to counterfeit. So that you're getting what you're supposed to be getting. One use case is art, right? Is a collectible or a trading card or anything that's that you want to say, okay, it is what it's supposed to be. But I believe that NFTs will be used for so much more than that. Like, for example, in the United States, one of the least efficient markets is for title insurance on homes. Like when a home gets bought or sold, there's a chain of title, right? And they use this outdated system where it's done by county. Some of it's not even computerized yet. So you could use non-fungible tokens, NFTs, to authenticate homes. You could take a home and divide it into 100 pieces even, and sell little pieces of that off. I believe that in the future, in the near future, you're gonna see many use cases for these. It's called tokenization, where you take something and you authenticate it with code or divide up into small pieces, and each one of those pieces is authentic through the code.
Thanks, Jordan. Some interesting information there. As you will have seen, McDonald's, Disney, and Marvel have taken their first steps into NFTs. If you give us a crystal ball look into the future, how long until NFTs are completely mainstream and blockchain used in other industries like you've mentioned?
I think within the next 5, at the outside 10. And if you would have asked me this 2 weeks ago, I might have said I would have said more like 10. And now I'm thinking maybe 2 to 3 because of Facebook's announcement, where they changing their name to Meta. So Meta is short for Metaverse, and Metaverse is this weird virtual world where people are gonna basically, instead of going into a bar, you could theoretically go into the metaverse bar, which is like a virtual bar where you're gonna have your own avatar and it's gonna be virtual everything. Now I know it sounds wacky, right? And it kind of is wacky, but like I remember when my son was young and playing video games all day long, he's like chasing after virtual lives and virtual emeralds and bananas, and I'm like, Connor, you're never going to meet a girl if you sit here and just sit all day long and in the virtual world. But meanwhile, he just was crazy for this virtual world. And what happens is the brain gets the same dopamine rush from all these virtual levels and virtual bananas and emeralds and bags of gold and lives. And so people get caught up in this virtual world. So the metaverse really represents this, like that next level up from what we have right now, where you go on the internet into a chat room. Soon it's going to be a metaverse. So they say is where they're going. Facebook obviously wants to be, a major player. They even changed their name to Meta. Imagine going into let's say, a place called Decentraland, which is one of the companies doing this, right? And you have a party in Decentraland. They go into your house and you have your NFTs on the wall, and like it shows what you own. The same way people use art as a status symbol right now, right? You could use NFTs. The darker side is also, art is one of the great ways that people move money around the world, right? So obviously NFTs can be used for the same thing, for very wealthy people looking to move money effortlessly and in a way that's unregulated. So I think it can be used for that as well.
That's a really good point, Jordan, there about how blockchain can be used in wider society. But what would you say are the risks to this and downsides to NFTs and the metaverse you've described?
I don't like the way it feels when I think about it. Like, I think that you keep getting further and further away from, human interaction. And I don't think that's a good thing. Listen, I couldn't imagine myself, being in the metaverse and really making that my, instead of going out and experiencing the world as it is. When I was 9, my father brought home a game called Pong, Coleco Pong. And he hooked up to our TV, and my brother and I were like, "Oh my god, the future!" It was like, boop, boop. It was like a ball, boop. It was tennis. And we watched this on the TV, and we were blown away. But now it's like the realism of these video games. It's shocking. Like when it's unbelievably realistic. And as computing power gets more and more, it makes things more and more realistic. You're going to go into these worlds with some of VR glasses. You're going to feel like that you're there. So, again, the downside to me is that I think that human beings should be interacting more in the real world and less online. But, COVID certainly was the instigator of this paradigm shift where people are, we're getting our food delivered into our homes, where people are working from home. So this metaverse represents the next level up from that. So I think that's one downside. I think another downside certainly is on the investment side. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that NFTs that are worthless, that are being a lot of money grabs that are going on right now, where people are getting in there, making money quickly, and a lot of these are going to be worthless one day, NFTs. But I think if you're careful and you buy good ones, and good ones defined as, for example, ones that already have communities built around them that are solid. And there are also appraisal companies that are popping up right now to appraise NFTs, I think, which is a really good thing. And also that if you kind of like the way it looks, I mean, I've seen these new screens now where you can put your NFTs on your wall like art, which is a pretty cool thing. So that's coming as well. And then I think, again, also, I think the whole crypto world is all, the counterpart is these shit coins that they have. You probably know about that, I'm sure, right? And it's very maddening to me because I was always very negative on crypto for many years because I thought that the government would shut it down. I always loved blockchain and was really negative on Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, great, but there's no way the government's going to allow this to happen. But for some inexplicable reason, I still can't explain it, they have. It doesn't make sense to me why the governments would allow us, but they did. And I think it's too much entrenched now in the system. I can't see the US or the UK quickly just putting the officer. I see them taxing it. I see them regulating it. Certainly regulation is good. It needs regulation desperately right now because there is a lot of frauds and scams going on. And there's a lot of people issuing tokens and coins that literally are just designed to separate people from their money. They have no utility. They don't do anything that solves a problem, but they do make the founders very wealthy and a lot of innocent people very poor. And yet there's some others that are amazing, that are really interesting. They're solving problems. They're doing things in a more efficient way, and that are creating opportunities for people to share music online and do all sorts of things, do transactions online. So there's like anything else, there's two sides to it.
No, definitely. And I think you are right. If it hasn't been regulated by now or stopped, as you say, it's not going to be. I just want to, you're one of the hopeful travelers in the NFT space, as you were with Wall Street and that kind of more traditional investment. What kind of differences and similarities do you see between those two worlds?
I think the SEC is just insane. Like, they're out of their minds. They need to be regulating this. They just do. I know some NFT people will say, "Don't say that out loud," or the crypto people, but I really disagree. That I think the sooner this is regulated, the better it is for the market. If you go back in history, whenever the SEC or any government agencies regulated a market, it ended up getting bigger and doing better. There might be a temporary downward dip as soon as they start to regulate, because people get nervous and the people that were into the quick buck are out. But eventually institutions will get involved if it gets more regulated. Sometimes I don't do stuff because I'm not sure what's even legal. They don't they haven't give you clarity on what's legal. So, you use a lawyer and then use your own common sense. And I guess, you say, well, if it's real and I'm not trying to just manipulate something and hurt people, and there's no clarity, which is really a bad thing, by the way. So that's one massive difference. The second huge difference is that it's driven by individuals, most of them smaller investors and young, without a lot of institutional sponsorship. Like on Wall Street, we used to say institutional money is smart money. And even when it's not, it's enough to fuel the market. Anyway, that was a great saying we used to say when you talk to an investor. You say, hey, I'm buying this stock. Institutions are buying this all over Wall Street. Institutional money is smart money. When it's not, it's up to fuel the market. Anyway, it's not true with crypto. It's like almost the opposite. Like it's not institutional money. It's at least there's some coming in now, so it's becoming a little more institutionalized. But still, people will say it's a Ponzi scheme. It's all a Ponzi scheme, right? And the answer is yes and no. So if you look at it empirically, yes, it's absolutely a Ponzi scheme. In a Ponzi scheme, you don't know it's a Ponzi scheme, and you think there's some existing business that's making you money. Here, it's crystal clear what's going on. Your ability to sell is based on someone else's ability to buy it at a higher price. There is no ifs, ands, or buts here. So it almost levels the playing field at some level. So like on Wall Street, when you're buying the S&P and you're a small investor, you're like, it's not fair. The big companies know more than me. They're in touch with the management of these companies. They're manipulating the stocks a lot more. There's these high frequency traders beating me to the punch and everything. So I think people feel like this, that they have less, believe it or not, less clarity or less inside information in Wall Street than in crypto. At least in crypto, it's a lot of people. It's like, who's the cutest girl in school this week? Who's the most popular coin this week? So it's more about that. So I think you feel like you have almost a fairer shake somewhat if you're careful in crypto. Now, is that true? Probably not, but I think people feel that way.
And moving away from NFTs, Jordan, if you could invest in anything right now, what would it be?
I think it would be two things. It would be cryptocurrency or let me say blockchain, not crypto, blockchain. So crypto is like kind of the wrong word, because crypto, by its definition, like you're trying to release a coin that's going to be used as currency. I don't think that's really what this is about. This is more about blockchain technology, distributive ledgers that are being used to redo financial, all sorts of systems that decentralize them, right? Record keeping, financial systems. So I think that's certainly one. And the other would definitely be property right now because of inflation. I think we're only seeing the tip of the spear right now when it comes to inflation, which makes me nervous. I remember when I was very young, interest rates were 22%, and I think there's going to be a time when interest rates are going to go flying up, and it's going to bring down property prices for sure. So part of the increase in property right now in the United States, at least, is driven by cheap money. So you can borrow money so cheaply. So you could buy a multi-million-dollar home now, even if you don't make that much money, and still be able to make the payment because the interest rates are so low. That's what allows homes to keep going up in value. Interest rates are going to have to go back up. Inflation is it's getting pretty bad here. I think it was 6% now. Ask anybody, they'll tell you that it's 6% is not the right number. They say it's 6%, but it's much higher than that, right? So at some point, property is proven to be a very powerful hedge against inflation, and so is cryptocurrency.
In terms of like the leaders that are around now, who do you admire and who do you think is a really, really good leader in kind of business?
In some ways, I love Elon Musk in some ways, and in other ways, sometimes I don't think he realizes sometimes that he'll say things offhandedly just to be funny, or he's very smart, obviously clever, but people follow him, and sometimes he'll say things flippantly, and then it causes some chaos downstream. I'm sure he's not doing it to try to hurt people. In fact, probably the opposite. And I'm sure he's a good guy, but I think as a businessman, as a visionary, he's amazing. And not just because he's rich. It's because he also laid every last dollar he had on the line with Tesla. Like he was like sleeping on the factory floor himself and almost went bankrupt. Like that, to me, that's the greatest part of all of Elon Musk's story is he really, he put his money where his mouth was and almost lost it all. So I think that's a great thing. That's certainly someone I respect. I always respected Warren Buffett because I just think he's just so, because I don't agree with a lot of things he says too. Like, he hates crypto. He thinks it's poison. And I understand why he says that, because I said that a lot too in the past. But I think one of the things I've learned is that you can respect someone, you can model them, but not all of them. You can, take parts of someone, attributes of their personality, attributes of how they do business, and then discard the parts that you don't admire as much. And I think that's a really good way to go about finding your mentors and the models you choose to use when you're building your own business. That you can take the best from a few different people.
I know that's really interesting there, Jordan. But yeah, I just want to talk about you now and your kind of personal life. So what is next for Jordan Belfort?
I'm doing a lot of stuff right now. I always do a lot of consulting with companies, which is, a big part of my business, where I work with companies on their, overall strategy, their sales, their marketing, branding. I'm doing a lot of branding stuff myself, launching new products with my brand. I think I'm going to be doing a lot of that over the next 5 or 10 years. And and I think, in this metaverse, I'm certainly positioning myself to be hopefully a thought leader in that space, and someone blazing the trail. In the past, I've been very slow. I've been behind the curve with this stuff in the past, because with social media, because, I'm from a different generation. It just was very difficult for me to wrap my arms around this whole thing. But I'm at a point now where I think I have a pretty solid grasp on where things are going to go. And while it might not be part of my DNA, certainly I know more than enough about it, and in the right circles where I think I have a good handle on where things are going over the next few years, and I'm positioning myself to be a leader in that space.
Thanks again for your time today, Jordan. Some great insights and really, really good to speak to you. Just, do you have any final words for the business leader audience?
Just, I think it's an exciting, incredible time to be alive. I think that you're watching in real time the remaking of the global financial system. And I think that for those people that are in the UK and the US, just remember that we have a very sort of first world centric view of finance. Like, there's a lot of countries out there that need a stable currency. They're underbanked, underfinanced, and so I think that there's a lot of good that cryptocurrency and decentralized finance can do. So remember, don't always have such a US or UK centric view of the world. It's a big world out there. And when you make your investment decisions, just remember that, don't just say, why would anyone want a currency? Well, a lot of these countries don't have one. They wake up and it's 50% less valuable than it was the day before. And that's it. And also just be very careful when you invest in anything. I think NFTs are something you should look at, but just very carefully, and only invest what you can afford to lose, especially at this point where it's a nascent market. If you're going to remember, you're speculating. It's speculation, so be very careful.